Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out Will American Greed Be Its Downfall? USA versus UK Money Attitudes Compared.
I was walking through JFK Airport a few months ago and I passed a girl wearing a shirt that said, "Make money, not friends." I wouldn't have stopped to think about it normally, this shirt with a funny saying, except it hit me that this was essentially the thesis statement of American life and that actually it wasn't meant to be funny at all. Whether this girl had any friends or any money, I couldn't tell you, but it was a glaring example of American cultural attitudes towards money that struck me. And
Make money, not friends. If I was walking through the airport and I saw someone wearing that, I would think it was supposed to be kind of funny because I can't imagine someone really having that outlook. I mean, really. Make money, not friends. I'm in the grind. I work hard. Do people really think that? Actually, yeah, they probably do. They probably do, y'all. Be sure to go to Girl Gone London and like and subscribe.
it was a glaring example of American cultural attitudes towards money that struck me. And as a dual UK and US citizen, the stark contrast to the British attitude is fascinating. Side note, speaking of money, sort of, I've released a new episode of For the Love today, link in the description. In this episode, I visit a British couple who live on a narrowboat in order to try and simplify their life and finances and have a bit of an adventure. So if you want to see me attempt to drive a narrowboat down the UK canals with zero experience, check it out.
I might check that out. I saw a video about narrowboating and it blew my mind. There are all these canals around the UK, like England I know of specifically. And it's a thing. They got these narrow boats. Just go all over the place on these narrow boats. I guess you can live on one. It's like an RV in America, but it's on the water.
Anyway, to be honest, a make money, not friends shirt is an example of the rotten side of American emphasis on money. Because on the flip side, on the healthier side, if you can say that, is, in my opinion, a country that places an exciting emphasis on entrepreneurship, on starting your own business, on seeing the success of your hard work.
That's a positive spin. And that's how it's sold to us too.
Entrepreneurship, on starting your own business, on seeing the success of your hard work. I can't sit here as somebody who is self-employed and is also an American citizen and say that I think American entrepreneurial spirit is all bad. Except, like we tend to do in America, we always take it one step too far. We can't just encourage entrepreneurship, we need shirts about it. We need the Girl Scouts to sell cookies, or biscuits as they're called in the UK, that say things like, "I am a go-getter." And when we're in the airport, browsing the bookstore for our easy reading, we're first confronted, as I was in JFK, with the business and self-improvement section. You have to pass by Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Selling in a Crisis in order to get to the fiction. And so
I know people with this mindset, y'all. I know them. And it's an unwinnable battle. Once you get in the grind and you start to making money your focus, it's really tough to stop and say, okay, that's enough. I have enough. Now I'm gonna chill. Nobody really does that. I mean, some very smart people do that. They get it. But a lot of us don't. It's never enough, you know? Bezos, plenty of money. He could retire right now, but it's never enough. I have a friend he's a millionaire, but it's not enough because it's not as much as his dad has. He's got to outdo his dad. He's got to make his dad proud, you know? My dad told me he was proud of me all the time. Maybe that's why I don't have any money. Anyway.
First, I want to explain some of the differences in cultural attitude towards money across the pond, and then use this to show how American attitudes towards money might be one of the country's biggest downfalls. Firstly, when it comes to talking about money, studies show that Brits are extremely uncomfortable with the topic. It's up there with religion on how much, culturally, it is not polite to ask or discuss. In America...
Yeah, I forget about that. Yeah, something I've seen in these videos before, kind of off the subject of money, is that when you're having small talk with an American, it's like an interview, a personal interview about your personal business. How many kids you got? Where are you from? What do you do for a living? That kind of stuff. But a British person, small talk is like observing things around outside of yourself, external things, and kind of like complaining about it a little bit. Not in a poo-poo like, that sucks, but like complaining about it in a way of commiserating. Like, we both hate this bus stop or whatever it is. So let's complain about it together. And through that, we bond. Anyway, I guess that relates to money too.
American culture, it's not necessarily always this way. You're not going to open your checking account on the PowerPoint at work to show everyone your latest spendings,
Right.
But questions like, what do you do for a living? i.e., how much money do you make, but I can't actually ask you that, are very, very common in America.
Oh my God, it's like the first thing. Where are you from? What do you do for a living? Right? Where are you from? What do you do for a living? And I do feel like when you ask people what they do for a living, they like, their butts pucker and they feel like they have to sell themselves to you. Like, oh, I do this. Or if they have a job in Los Angeles, if they have a job like producer or director or manager or agent, they're very like, they skirt around the issue. They won't tell you. So in that sense, I get it. Makes things awkward. Where was I going with this? I don't know. I'm just reflecting, y'all. I'm learning here. I don't know what I'm saying.
How much money do you make, but I can't actually ask you that, are very, very common in America. Money is still seen as a personal matter, don't get me wrong, but the extent to which it is much different than in the UK. Americans are just more open about money in general. Then you have another fascinating difference in that studies have shown that the British, culturally and psychologically, tend to report experiencing more harmful effects when seeing someone else become wealthier, whereas Americans don't react the same. A great example of this can be found in British versus American soap operas. British soaps focus on the working class. It has been said because audiences at home want to see people that they can relate to and that seems more real.
Makes
American
sense.
audiences, on the other hand, want to see the rich,
people.
hunky doctors with millions of dollars living their rich lives and having tons of money and glitz and glamour. So the American soap operas reflect this.
It's more than just soap. I mean, well, I'm thinking of like Dynasty, Falcon Crest. Those were in the 80s, I guess. And like even now, The White Lotus. It's all about rich people. You know why I like The White Lotus? It's a bunch of rich people and they're miserable. They don't even realize they're miserable. They don't even realize how crappy their lives are. It makes me feel better about being unrich.
American audiences often have a reaction of, hey, that person's rich, whether real or fictional, that could be me someday. Because in America, money equals success. That's basically all there is to it. We do have a class system, but it isn't as rigid as the British class system, which
I think money equals freedom. That's how I think of it. You know?
is a topic for another video. But in America, class is most often defined by money. Class in the British system is far more
Right.
complicated and not just based on income or wealth accumulated, but in the US, money is success, and also money means that you're seen as a good person. And money in the US has been seen as success since the Puritan days.
Money makes you seem like a good person. Well, maybe to some people. I don't know. I think that's complicated. I don't think that's a generalization that I would agree with, because I feel like to a lot of people, if someone's really rich, you think, well, they must be breaking the rules somehow to get all that money. They're probably not a good person, right? They're probably not paying their fair share of taxes. They're probably a slumlord. They're probably cutting corners somehow. Tell me how you do it.
Puritans believed that God awarded wealth and subsequently power to the spiritual elite, and that even in general for the
really?
average population, material success was a sign of God's favor on you for being good. Now,
Really? I want to look that up. I don't know much about Puritans, but it seems like they'd be like pious. The Puritans believed that God awarded wealth and power to those who were chosen as a spiritual elite. Wow. That's almost word for word. That's some Joel Who's this evangelist preacher guy? Joel Osteen. Yo, surely you've heard of this guy. He says, oh, this is from Joel Osteen Ministries. Sometimes religion can make people feel that it's wrong to be blessed with resources. He calls it resources. But the scripture says that Job, a man of the highest integrity and who honored God, was blessed with great wealth and resources. What about the rich man camel through a needle thing, Joel? Right? Joel. Oh, also, there was I think he has a big place in Texas somewhere, like a Houston or Dallas, some gigantic church, and he wouldn't let people come in when there was a flood. There was some natural disaster, and he wouldn't let people use his church as a shelter. Joel, give me your money.
The Puritans also emphasized social responsibility and what they called stewardship to others, so the messaging has gotten a little bit lost over time, but it does go back to the early days of the Puritan settlers. And again, American attitudes towards money plays into how the rest of the world sees Americans flaunting their money or their purchases. Brits tend to try and hide it, or not necessarily hide it, but be discreet about it. American consumers are often wanting to share with people about their new purchases.
I feel like in America, people who have a lot of money, they do try to keep it discreet to some degree. People who don't have much money, but then get a bunch of money, they're the ones who show off. For whatever reason, they think it's gonna make more money by doing that, you know? You know what I mean?
Look at the new car I just bought. Look at the new house I just bought and all the cool features. In a way, you're saying in the US, look at how successful I am, and therefore, look how good I am. And we have to remember, as always, in the US, very few safety nets exist for those who don't have money. There's no national health care, there are fewer benefits, there is no unified social housing system. So in a way, money means more in America because it really is a matter of life or death. We know that money offers up opportunity to people from around the world. This is not just exclusive to America, but it's very pronounced in America. In the UK, if you need a surgery, those who have the money may decide to go private to skip the wait times, but you can still get your medically necessary surgery on the NHS for no cost. In the US, if you're poor or without healthcare or without money,
you're gonna die.
It's not just the level of care or wait times that impact you, it's getting care at all. And this is where I think the American attitude towards money starts to show its darker side, and money worship tends to come into play. You can say a lot about the Brits, but one thing I'm pretty confident about culturally is that they don't worship money.
Okay. Yeah, what was the last thing she said? She said, hang on.
Or without money, it's not just the level of care or wait times that impact you, it's getting care at all. And this is where I think the American attitude towards money starts to show its darker side, and money worship tends to come into play.
Yeah, there are some things that just shouldn't be for profit, right? Like healthcare, I think. Things like parks, stuff that's for the general good. School, the postal service, libraries, things that help people live. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? I don't know, y'all. I don't know. This is making me sad.
I can say a lot about the Brits, but one thing I'm pretty confident about culturally is that they don't worship money. You can see this in the way money is talked about, or not talked about as it were, as well as in the work culture in the UK. Someone wearing a make money, not friends shirt in the UK would definitely be given the side eye. And in some ways, this can lead to what some people see as a lack of entrepreneurial spirit in the UK, but on the other side of the pond, America really falls into the trap of the often repeated phrase, money is the root of all evil. Because money is power. Everywhere, but especially in America, and it means that culturally, we start to worship business people or businesses altogether.
This B-roll, she's just counting cash. That looks like Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig, we found your doppelganger.
That culturally, we start to worship business people or businesses altogether rather than the average person, which most of us are. The current president was made famous by being on a reality show about judging people's ability to make money. And I don't care how much evidence there is to the contrary or what the stats are on how much money is actually in his bank account. The point is that culturally, he is seen as a business person, as someone who made money, as someone who is wealthy. And in the US, we often equate equate that with, that must mean you're hardworking, you're a good person, you're successful and powerful.
That's a loaded thing for me. His dad gave him millions of dollars. That's how he made his money.
We often give positive traits to people with a lot of money because of that worship of money. In the UK, on the other hand, I suspect the response would be a bit more like, who do you think you are? In the UK, I expect the response would be something a little bit like, who do you think you are?
Oh, weird little editing thing. Let's watch that moment again.
UK, on the other hand, I suspect the response would be a bit more to people with a lot of money because of that worship of money.
Look at your script. Check it.
In the UK, on the other hand, I suspect the response would be a bit more like, who do you think you are? In the UK, I expect the response would be something a little bit like, who do you think you are? I'm not impressed with your money, and the more you talk about it, the less I want to talk to you. Also, just look at the gold card immigration idea for $5 million that's currently being talked about in America. Fast track your way to US citizenship if you're rich. Now, there are similar routes to visas like this in other countries, but in America, it can't just be left listed as a line item on the immigration website. It needs to be the gold card. Gold meaning good, gold meaning wealthy, gold meaning if you have enough money, then you're probably okay. Skip the line. We want you here.
Right, yeah. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Let's just let the Russian oligarchs in. $5 million, that's pocket change to them, right?
Or think about the American lobbying system where companies pay money to influence political decisions.
Lobbying should be illegal. Lobbying should be illegal, right? I feel like we all agree on that. Why isn't it illegal yet? Because the people who make the laws get the money.
The more money an industry has, the more they push their way ahead, and this is not only allowed in the US, but kind of encouraged. The country is sold to the highest bidder, and many Americans tend to think, well, fair enough, because people and companies with money must have done something right or had the right ideas to get there. They deserve to be heard more. They earned it. The UK does have lobbying and pressure groups, but there are far more restrictions on political donations and regulations surrounding this side of politics, which means you can't simply buy your way into political decisions in the same way you can in the US, though I'm not saying money doesn't also corrupt in the British government. And that's the thing, isn't it? The real truth is that money corrupts, or at least it gives a gateway to easier corruption.
Yes,
a lot of good
well
can
said.
be done with a lot of money, there's no doubt about that, but a society that worships money is much more easily swayed by corruption than one that values it less when it comes to what it says about a person. Because I'm not saying British people don't also want and need money. We all want and need money to pay the bills, to buy the things we need, and to buy the things that we want. That's no different anywhere. But in the UK, there isn't as strong of a cultural attitude that having more money means you're a good or better person. Whereas in the US, there is. Now that brings us to the end of another episode. Leave your comments below. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Kaylin. Y'all be sure to go to Girl Gone London and like and subscribe. Kind of a depressing video. You know, when it comes to politics and money, I don't remember which presidential candidate came up with this idea or mentioned it. It may have been Bernie Sanders or Ross Perot even, something like that. But it was regarding political campaign contributions. And the idea was a voucher system. So when you pay your taxes, you have $50 that you can give to either candidate or whatever candidate. And that's it. That's all the money the campaigns get are from those vouchers from citizens. No corporate stuff, no business contributions, no lobbying. That seems fair. Instead, we have Elon Musk trying to buy our elections. He's probably trying to do that in the UK too, y'all. And people think he's a good person because he has a lot of money. I don't want to say bad stuff, y'all. I don't want to get negative. How come Americans worship the dollar like a god? Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Joel Osteen. I don't want to get religious. Oh, this person says, "Are you joking? Because with money is absolute power." Misspelled absolute. "Look, I'm a dirt poor hillbilly, but if I won the Powerball lottery tomorrow for $100 million, my entire life would change. I could buy one of the nicest houses around in a gated community with bodyguards all around. I could take away all of my family members' debt and help them out. Of course I could get a swimsuit model on my arm as a trophy wife. Yes, she would only be with me for my money, but do I care? Nope. Brandon. I could eat the best foods, drive the best cars, buy a frickin' island. Money takes care of everything. Don't think for a minute it don't. Brandon. Will it help you if you get cancer? No. Will it buy a ticket to heaven? Nope. Sure won't, but life will be like heaven until then." I don't think Brandon gets it, y'all. Brandon's an American. They say when people are on their deathbed, they don't mention, I wish I made more money. Unless they're dying because they couldn't afford a procedure that they needed to save their life, maybe. But people seem to usually say, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I spent more time with so-and-so or other people, or, wish I wasn't focused on money so much. This is something to think about, y'all. This is just bumming me out, and I'm sorry. Well, y'all, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Look, I'm ending this by talking about ways you can give me money. You can buy a mug. You could buy me a coffee. Or you can become a patron and give me like a dollar or two every month. And I'm realizing the irony of me ending every video with that kind of stuff. Maybe I need to change it. Maybe I need to change my outro. I didn't realize. It's focused on money. What should I change it to? Hey y'all, I'd like to thank my family. I'd like to thank my friends. I'd like to thank all my viewers out there giving me positive reinforcement and lovely comments. Thank y'all for watching this with me. Don't give me any money. I don't need your money. I do need your money. I can't say that. I don't know what to say. Y'all, just thanks for being a good person. Maybe I should just say that. Thank you for your support. I'll say that. Thank you for your support. Keep being good humans, y'all. Be kind to each other. Now I sound like Ellen DeGeneres. Okay, I gotta think about this. I'm wasting hard drive space. Y'all, thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank you. Be good to each other. I love you, I guess, on a baseline level of loving my fellow human beings, because most of you I don't know. But thank you. Gratitude. Thanks. What a failure. I gotta think this through. Yeah, okay. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.